Hello viewers. Today we have a Lakewood 20-inch box fan, and we should not confuse it with this Lakewood, which is the replacement for that model, nor should we confuse it with its predecessor, which we probably, when we think of Lakewood, we think of this big guy. So I've been on a bit of a Lakewood kick as of late. Those who follow the channel know I tend to be more of a McGraw Edison type guy. Talked about those stories many times on why. But really, as I've been going through my collection, I have a lot of Lakewood. And I think I really have every Lakewood fan in the Lineage from the P23 on up to these fans that I just showed. And the only one I really don't have is the more modern brace fan, the controversial brace fan. And there's been a good video out there on the Lakewood brace bladed fan, and some good discussion around that. So I recommend that video, which is not on my channel. Just look it up. So this fan here, as part of my collection, I don't think I've turned it on once, maybe once. And I acquired this probably, I was really trying to think hard when and where I acquired this, but I likely got it for next to nothing. I hope I did. And I probably grabbed it because it was next to nothing, and it kind of filled out the gap in my Lakewood lineup. These, it's interesting. They are not their beloved predecessors, but they're still solid. And what I've always really admired about Lakewood is when they updated their fans or made them more modern for that time, they kept the brand intact. They kept the cabinet shape the same, the color shape the same, the blade set, the color the same. They made some changes obviously to the hub on this, but this is kind of an in-between because the actual blades themselves look a little bit like their predecessor, but then the hub here looks like the next generation after this. So they did a very good job with that. And with the handle, the switch, the label, and the branding on it, really cool. I believe this generation, they dropped the Kmart variant, which it's the previous generations had the Robin's Eggs Blue version, which I have a couple of those, my P23, and I have two others that are like that. And if you subscribe to my channel, you can check out those videos. I had done videos on those as well. So this one was kind of like, to me, like the in-between. Like it's kind of like when Ford and GM downsized from their giant cars of the 70s to like the 80s. Like that's kind of where we're at now with this fan. And when I see these, I now kind of think of the Lascos of the 90s, like the second half, the late 90s and early 2000s. I remember when Lasco went from really like the squared off cabinet to the rounded. Whenever I would see the rounded cabinet when they first came out with those in the late 90s, I would think Lakewood. I was like, wait, Lakewood's the only one that's supposed to have the rounded cabinet, not Lasco. But now, they're all rounded everywhere you go. There's no such thing as a square cabinet box fan these days. So without further ado, just checking this out. Its previous owner, I can just feel on the grill, while there's no broken slats, it feels a little brittle to me. Not horrible. I showed this fan over here in another video, and I mean, this is absolutely trashed. And I think these grills are very similar in terms of quality. You can see how that has yellowed. So this likely was used in the sun or somewhere where the sun was shining on it. So the grill got faded, and the switch is a bit yellowed, but the handle's not. So I wonder how this was used in its previous life, because if it was in the window, likely the switch and the handle would be spared. And depending on which side the fan was functioning, whether it was drawing in air or exhausting air, which I think show where more of the yellowing is. So we'll turn it on first. So let's do low. Someone needs some oil. Clearly I have not serviced this fan. Looks like it wants to break loose. Come on. Let's try medium. High. Yeah, so I'm not going to run this too long because clearly it needs to be oiled. So I have never turned this on before. I have this habit of acquiring fans and just sticking them right in the collection. There we go, it's breaking loose. That's medium. Yeah, it basically shuts off. So this is pretty bad. Here it comes. It's coming along. Coming along. I'm not going to run it too long because those bearings are dry. And I don't know if the camera's picking up, but there is papers flying around behind the camera. So it's moving pretty good air. Let's go back to medium. Yeah, it's just, it's struggling. And you can hear the sound of the switch, which is very, very typical of a Lakewood, that squeaky switch sound. So we'll take a look at the spin down. So that, not much there. Notice how it's missing a foot. Actually, it's not missing a foot. A foot snapped off. I'm trying to think if that has happened on my watch. Not literally my watch, but if it has happened while I've had it in my museum. The shelf, and maybe I'll do a video on the shelf that I keep these in. I don't have them filed like books. I have them facing out. And so you can't necessarily see all of them, and it's on an industrial shelf with kind of like a wire mesh bottom. And sometimes they get a little caught. So I'm wondering if maybe one of the feet got caught when I was trying to pull it out. This was all the way in the back, and it's dusty, but I do keep it covered in the winter months. I've talked about that. And again, I'll do a video at some point. The motor, the windings aren't horrible, actually. They're pretty darn clean. I actually think, despite the yellowing and despite the dry bearings, this thing may not have a lot of hours on it. So probably what I'll do is a video on this, servicing it, and just see, maybe just even the oil part. And I understand, what I love about these is the oil ports. They still have the oil ports. Obviously on the other side, you have to pull the blades off to get to the port, but you don't have to break the motor apart, which is, as much as I love my McGraw Edison fans, I loved Lakewood for doing this. Absolutely love Lakewood. The difference on this motor compared to its predecessor, though, is, and even I think the P25, maybe, which is a newer fan, than this, had the kind of the cover over the shaft. Now I often wondered why Lakewood did that. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I don't know. So I'll just turn it on one more time so we can see the rough spin down on this side. Yeah, Lakewood's, that's not horrendous. But in my feeling, Lakewoods have some of the nicest spin downs just because you can keep them fairly well oiled easily. And sometimes I've seen them turn off and they just still going and going and going. Well, if you like Lakewoods, you like box fans, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, comment. Definitely like to hear your comments on this one. It'll probably show up again in at least one more video. Maybe I'll do a servicing on camera. And then I also want to do a Lakewood comparison to its its predecessor, and then ultimately its replacement, and kind of do a comparison video, because I think it would be kind of neat because they, like as I talked about before, they kind of keep the look of the Lakewood fan until they get to the brace blade fan. So thanks for watching, and see you on the next video.